Welcome to Lorn Sleepy, your peaceful space for calm storytelling, mindfulness, and bedtime peace lessons. Join Lina on her gentle journey through whispering winds, still ponds, wise creatures, and soft moonlight. This calming story is designed to soothe your mind, relax your body, and guide you gently toward restful sleep or quiet mindfulness. The Little Hill and the Whispering Wind. There was a small, round hill far away from towns and roads, where everything moved slowly and nothing was ever in a hurry. On this hill lived a quiet girl named Lina. Lina was gentle like the morning mist. Every day, she sat under an old tree with wide arms and listened, not to music, not to voices, but to the wind. The wind would pass over the hill with a sound like soft breathing. Sometimes it whispered stories. Sometimes it simply sighed. Lina would close her eyes, place her hands gently in her lap, and listen. She listened without needing to answer. She listened without needing to understand. She just was there, and the wind loved her for that. One morning, as the sun rose slowly and turned the sky the color of early light, the wind whispered, "Today is a good day to walk. Slowly, quietly, mindfully." Lina opened her eyes and smiled. She stood, stretched like a sleepy cat, and began to walk along the path that circled the hill. Each step was soft. Each breath was slow. Each thought was light, like a feather floating in a calm lake. As she walked, she noticed little things. The way a blade of grass bent with the breeze, the tiny beetle climbing a stone, the hush of her own footsteps. Lina knew this moment didn't need to be changed. It was already enough, and so was she. The pond that waited. Lina followed the winding path down the hill, her steps as light as fallen petals. As the trees grew taller and the air cooler, the sound of the whispering wind softened and was slowly replaced by something else. Drip, drip, drip. It was the sound of water, gentle, slow, unhurried. Soon, Lina arrived at a pond hidden beneath willow trees. The water was still, like a deep breath held in peace. Dragonflies hovered quietly. A single frog blinked at her from a lily pad, then closed its eyes again, as if to say, "Yes, you may sit here." So Lina did. She sat by the pond and looked at her reflection. Her face was calm, her shoulders soft, her thoughts like clouds. She placed her hands in her lap again, closed her eyes, and breathed in. Inhale, hold, exhale, and again. Each breath was like a pebble gently dropped into the pond, soft ripples in the quiet of the day. The pond didn't ask her to speak. It didn't expect her to smile. It just waited, patiently, quietly, kindly. Lina listened to the pond's silence. She let her thoughts come and go. Some were happy, like sunshine. Some were heavy, like rain. But she didn't hold them. She let them float away. After a while, she whispered softly, as if to the pond or maybe to herself, "Peace is not something I must find. It is something I allow." A breeze passed gently through the trees. The willow leaves rustled like a lullaby. The frog blinked again and let out a soft hum. Lina smiled. She had nowhere to go, nothing to do, and no need to change a single thing. This moment was a gift. The turtle and the time between moments. After some time, Lina stood up from the pond's edge and brushed her hands on her soft skirt. The sun was beginning to tilt westward, casting long, sleepy shadows across the path. She walked slowly again, always slowly. No rush, no race, just presence. As she turned a bend in the path, she saw something curious ahead. A turtle. It was old, very old, with a shell pattern like the rings of trees and movements that made even the wind seem restless. The turtle stood in the middle of the path, 1 foot in the air, frozen like a statue. But as Lina came closer, it slowly placed its foot down, then paused, then lifted the next. Lina stopped walking and watched. She didn't speak. She didn't try to pass. She just stood still and breathed. 1 breath in, 1 breath out, and the turtle kept walking, step by step, with the kind of patience pace that made everything else feel like a rushing stream. Eventually, the turtle looked up at Lina. Its eyes were soft and deep, like it had seen many sunrises and never once hurried through them. "Why do people chase moments?" it said gently, "when peace lives in the space between them?" Lina tilted her head. She thought of how she used to count minutes, wait for tomorrow, worry about yesterday. But now she had stopped counting. Now she simply listened to the steps, to the breath, to the world between thoughts. "Thank you," she whispered. The turtle nodded. Then it turned off the path and into the tall grass, disappearing like a thought that had finished its lesson. Lina continued her walk, slower now, and with more stillness in her heart. She noticed a butterfly land on her shoulder and sit there for a long while, as if it too had nowhere better to be. And when the sun finally touched the edge of the earth, the sky sighed into evening. Lina sat beneath a tree and let the day end gently. She whispered to the sky, "Today, I remembered how to be still." The stars didn't answer. They didn't need to. Their quiet shining was enough. The night of gentle sounds. The stars came slowly, like shy friends peeking from behind a curtain of clouds. One, then another, then hundreds, each one silent, each one still. Lina stayed beneath the tree, her knees pulled gently to her chest. She felt the softness of night wrap around her like a warm blanket. Everything was quieter now, not silent, but calm. An owl called in the distance, not loud, not sharp, just steady. Whoo! Then a breeze brushed through the tall grass, making it sigh like a sleepy child. A cricket began to sing, its rhythm soft and even, like the ticking of a heart that wasn't in a hurry. Lina listened. She didn't need to do anything else. This was enough. She noticed how different the world sounded at night. Not with busy sounds, but with gentle ones. The kind that remind you that rest is important and slowness is sacred. She leaned back against the tree and placed her hand on the earth. "I am here," she said softly, as if to herself, to the stars, to the night itself. The earth was still warm from the sun. It said nothing, but it held her. She closed her eyes, and in the dark behind her eyelids, she saw not blackness, but colors moving softly. Deep blue, soft silver, warm gold. Like a quiet dream beginning. And then she heard something new. A soft patter. Tiny footsteps in the grass. She opened her eyes slowly and saw a small fox standing just a few feet away. Its fur was smooth. Its eyes were curious, but not afraid. The fox sat down, just like she did. The two of them sat in silence for a long while, just breathing. Then, in a voice like soft leaves, the fox said, "You are very good at being still. That is a rare thing." Lina smiled gently. "I'm learning." The fox nodded, its tail curling around its feet. "Stillness isn't the absence of movement," it whispered. "It's the presence of peace." And with that, the fox stood and disappeared into the tall grass, leaving behind only the echo of its words. Lina placed her hand on her heart and breathed in. Stillness, peace, breath. The stars turned slowly above her, and she felt them move, even though she could not see it. And within her, something quiet bloomed. The moon and the breath of the forest. Lina stayed beneath the tree until the sky turned silver. The moon had risen high, glowing like a lantern held by the stars. It lit the forest path with a light that was not bright, but kind, just enough to guide a gentle step, not chase away the night. Lina stood up and walked again, deeper into the woods now, where the trees leaned close and whispered to each other in leaf language. With every step, she matched her breath to the sound of the forest. Inhale as the leaves rustled. Exhale as a branch swayed. Inhale, exhale. She felt a rhythm, not from her, but from everything. Even the trees seemed to breathe. She came to a small clearing, perfectly round, where moonlight poured in like still water. In the middle stood a stone, flat, wide, smooth, like it had waited a long time for someone to sit upon it. Lina sat, crossed her legs, and rested her hands on her knees. She closed her eyes. There was no wind, no bird call, No movement at all, only breath, and still. Time passed, but Lina did not feel it. Instead, she felt now, only now. Then, from the branches above, a voice spoke. It was old and deep, like the roots of the earth. Do you know why the moon watches us so quietly? Lina opened her eyes and looked up. There, perched on a branch, was an owl. Its feathers blended with the bark. Its eyes glowed like drops of moonlight. She shook her head slowly. The owl answered, "Because the moon knows that silence holds the answers we rush past during the day." Lina whispered, "I think I'm beginning to understand." The owl blinked, then added, "Silence isn't empty. It's full of what we need." And again, the forest grew still. Even the owl said no more. Lina looked up at the moon and breathed deeply, letting that truth settle into her chest like a feather floating downward. She stayed there until her mind felt as smooth as the stone she sat upon. When she stood again, the owl was gone, but the feeling remained. The dawn inside the heart. The forest grew quieter still, as if the night itself were drifting to sleep. Lina stepped softly back onto the path, her heart calm, her breath steady. She had no map, no destination, only trust in her steps and trust in the stillness within. The moon followed behind her like a quiet companion. Above, the stars began to blink away, one by one, like lights dimming at the end of a long, kind dream. And then, beyond the trees, a soft light began to grow. Not loud, not fast, just a quiet blooming of dawn. Lina walked toward it. As she came to the edge of the forest, she stepped into a meadow, wide and open, brushed with the color of morning. The first birds began their slow songs, not sharp, but sweet and simple. The air was cool, like water from a calm stream. The sky yawned with gold and soft blue. Lina stood in the center of the field, her hands by her side, and closed her eyes one last time. She listened. She listened to the grass swaying. She listened to the sun rising. She listened to the peace inside her. And in that moment, she realized something. She wasn't just walking through peace. She had become it. The turtle's stillness, the fox's wisdom, the owl's silence, the pond's patience, the wind's whisper. They were all inside her now. They had always been there. Lina breathed in, feeling her chest rise like the sun. She breathed out, letting go of all that wasn't needed. A gentle smile came to her lips. No need for more. This moment was whole. This moment was home. And as the sun stretched its golden arms across the world, Lina lay down in the soft meadow grass, not to sleep, not to dream, but just to be. And in that stillness, in that breath, the story came to rest, not with an ending, but with a quiet beginning inside the heart.